Hey guys, today we're in Hebrews chapter 5. And one thing I learned from Hebrews 5 is the importance of spiritual growth in our lives as Christians. The fact is that we understand the importance of growth in every area of life. If a baby is born and doesn't grow according to normal growth standards, it's immediate cause for concern. We'll consult every doctor and go to the ends of the earth to make sure we figure out what's wrong so we can get them the help that they need. If a student is not growing in their understanding of a certain subject, if an athlete is not growing in their skill level of their given sport, if an employee is not growing in their career, if a couple is not growing in their marriage, we find all of these to be areas of concern. And we'll find whatever tutors or trainers or mentors or counselors that we need to get them all back on track. But even though we understand the importance of growth in practically every area of life, when a Christian doesn't grow in their faith, in their understanding, in their service, in their wisdom, and in their relationship with God, often we don't even bat an eyelash. Spiritual stagnation is considered normal. Spiritual growth is considered weird. So a person can stay spiritual babies forever, and sometimes we never even notice. Well, some of the Christians to whom the book of Hebrews was written had themselves remained spiritual babies for months or maybe even years after their conversion. And now in Hebrews 5, they're being confronted for it. In fact, the author's exact words were these: "For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the first principles of the oracles of God. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But solid food belongs to those who are of full age, that is, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil." Hebrews 5, verses 12 through 14. See, Christianity is a taught religion. Therefore, it only moves forward as much as Christians move forward in their faith and knowledge. If Christians don't grow enough to effectively reach and teach others, then instead of taking a step forward, we take a step back. Why were these Christians so weak in the faith and headed back to the former lives they had escaped? Because they had not grown. In fact, the passage even gives the analogy of milk and meat. Baby's diet in its earliest months is limited to milk. It has everything they need, but it's also simple enough for their bodies to process. But of course, as that baby grows, milk isn't enough. As their body grows, their needs change and starts to require a more complex diet to sustain their life. So just as you wouldn't progress a baby to meat too soon, well, you wouldn't limit a full-grown adult to milk either, because it alone will kill them. But unlike a child, our growth spiritually does not come naturally. We have to put forth the effort to grow and mature as a Christian. It comes through prayer, Bible study, having positive Christian influences around us, and being intentional about developing as a servant. Really, every few years, we should be able to look back at where we once were and take inventory of how far we have come. But if every few years we look at ourselves and realize there's been no meaningful change, well, that's a symptom of a larger problem we have to be willing to address. So the question is, what are you doing every day to make sure that you're growing as a Christian the way you should?